Good evening from London. Hello from me, Dr. Dermot Hudson, the chairman of the British Group for the Study of the Juche-based and chairman of the Korean Friendship Association of the UK, and of course the owner of the SONGUN007 YouTube channel. Welcome to the 20th live stream. So I've lined up a short presentation for everyone. I'll speak for about 15 to 20 minutes, and then it'll be over to the audience to ask put in a few questions in the chat. Hope everyone can actually hear what I'm saying. Hello to comrades from the People's Korea Initiative of Poland. Great to have you on the live stream. So anyway, I will give my presentation now, and then we take some questions, run for about an hour or about an hour and 10 minutes. And of course, we're witnessing very stirring events in People's Korea. A new hospital in the centre of Pyongyang has been completed and will go into commission in October on the 80th anniversary of the Workers' Party of Korea. It's a very impressive hospital. It's even got its own helipad, so it's all state of the art and modern. And of course, the DPRK successfully tested a cruise missile under the guidance of respected Marshal Kim Jong-un, which is a warning to the enemies of People's Korea, such as the US imperialists and the ROK puppets, not to mess around with People's Korea. And of course, People's Korea does not have illusions in US imperialism or put any faith in negotiations with the US imperialists. The past month, February, saw quite a number of different DPRK anniversaries, keynote anniversaries, such as the Day of the Shining Star, the 83rd anniversary of the birth of the great leader, Comrade Kim Jong-il, and the 77th anniversary of the foundation of the Korean People's Army as a standing regular revolutionary armed force, which stands guard over the vast achievements of Juche-based socialism. Also, there was the 51st anniversary of when Comrade Kim Jong-il announced the program of modeling the whole of society on the Juche idea, and this was on the 19th of February. It was on the 19th of February 1974 that Comrade Kim Jong-il put forward this very revolutionary program to model the whole of society in the DPRK on the Juche idea, a truly unique program. And it was also the 11th anniversary of the publication of the work of respected Marshal Kim Jong-un, which was titled, "Let Us Hasten Final Victory Through a Revolutionary Ideological Offensive." And this anniversary was on the 25th of February. So I think today it is good for me to concentrate on the DPRK's concept of the revolutionary ideological offensive. Respected Marshal Kim Jong-un made a speech at the 8th Conference of Party Ideological Workers of the Workers' Party of Korea on the 25th of February 2014, which was titled, "Let Us Hasten the Final Victory Through a Revolutionary Ideological Offensive." This was a deeply significant speech as it mapped out the way ahead for the ideological work of the Workers' Party Korea, and it was also been made a few months after the aftermath of the defeat and purge of the modern factionalist clique, the modern revisionist clique. within the Workers' Party leadership in December 2013. Referring to the defeat of the modern factionalist clique at the conference, respected Marshal Kim Jong-un said, and I quote, "The soaring mental spirit of our service personnel and people who, after liquidating the modern version of the factionalist group, have hardened up their determination to follow the party Central Committee invariably along the long road of revolution, should be fanned up to flare into the flames of a great revolutionary upsurge." And he added, "Historically speaking, great victory was won in the Fatherland Liberation War after the purge of an anti-party counter-revolutionary factionalist clique, following the fifth plenary meeting of the party Central Committee. The Cholima upswing was brought about in the course of eliminating the August 1956 factionalist group, and world-startling successes were achieved in the showdown with the United States and the socialist industrialization drive after the anti-party revisionists were exposed at the 15th plenary meeting of the Fourth Party Central Committee." End of quotation. I think the above quotation explains very well the significance of the defeat of the factionalists, both in the context of the present and also historically. In the late 1950s, after the defeat of the anti-party counter-revolutionary factionalists, there was the Cholima upsurge, which saw industrial output values soar by 40% in 1 year. The defeat of the modern factionalist clique had marked a historic turning point. Now the task was to successfully effect an upswing in the building of socialism, including successfully implementing the line of building the economy and nuclear force in tandem, which had been put forward at the March 2013 plenary meeting of the Central Committee of the Workers' Party of Korea. In his speech, respected Marshal Kim Jong-un described the modern factionalist group as, quote, "an ideologically degenerate entity which was outwardly overcome with fear for the pressure by the imperialists and inwardly contaminated with bourgeois ideology and culture." End of quotation. This is a very accurate and appropriate description of the modern factionalist clique, who actually went far beyond modern revisionism. Marshal Kim Jong-un identifies the reason for the emergence of the modern factionalist clique as being due to the defects in the work of party ideological workers. So he put forward the idea of hastening the final victory of socialism through a revolutionary ideological offensive to smash all reactionary imperialist and bourgeois ideas. Marshal Kim Jong-un urged that, and I quote, "they should take the initiative in launching operations to make the imperialists' moves for ideological and cultural infiltration end in smoke while putting up mosquito net, double and treble, to prevent the viruses of capitalist ideology which the enemy is persistently attempting to spread from infiltrating across our border." End of quotation. In the past, other socialist countries saw the crumbling and overthrow of socialism precisely because they failed to raise the mosquito net and instead allowed and even connived at the infiltration of imperialist Western and bourgeois culture. Visiting Eastern Europe back in 1988 and 1989, I could see with my very own eyes the infiltration of the trash of imperialist culture. For example, people were wearing blue jeans and they were drunks in the old German Democratic Republic or East Germany, and in revisionist Hungary, which was probably the most revisionist of all the socialist countries. There were Madonna and Rambo posters openly on sale in the markets. There were copies of the Rupert Murdoch's Times and the International Herald Tribune on sale in newsstands. And there was a McDonald's in Vachi Utica, Vachi Street. You know, this is just giving background examples of the degeneration that occurred in the other socialist countries, because they did not combat imperialist ideology and culture and didn't launch a revolutionary ideological offensive. After respected Marshal Kim Jong-un's speech to ideological workers, the DPRK stepped up ideological work, including anti-US, anti-imperialist class education. The Sinchon Museum, the famous anti-US museum, was rebuilt and expanded, and new class education centres, such as the Class Education Hall, which is by the Fatherland Liberation War Museum, were opened. And by the way, I would urge anyone listening, if you're able to one day visit People's Career, I hope all of you will manage to visit it once, at least in your lifetime. Yeah, you should go and see the Sinchon Museum, where the atrocities of US imperialism are graphically detailed. Marshal Kim Jong-un was to later stress the need to combat anti-socialist and non-socialist ideas at several plenary meetings of the Central Committee of the ruling Workers' Party of Korea in 2019 and 2020. All the above underscores why the DPRK is so successful, why the DPRK socialism, Juche-based Korean-style socialism, is simply the best socialism and the most advanced and superior socialism. During my last visit to People's Career in April 2024, and my goodness, it was only a year ago, but it now seems like a very long time ago. A friend of mine from Slovakia, who'd been with me in the DPRK in 2017, 2018, remarked that he'd been worried about visiting the DPRK after an absence of 6 years. He was worried about what he might find in the DPRK, but he was quite relieved as well as positive when he saw that there'd been no reform and opening up and no influence of Western culture. People's Career is carrying out massive construction projects, such as building new housing and new regional industry factories by its own efforts and resources and labour, defying the sanctions of the imperialists and without outside aid. Indeed, President Kim Il-sung once said, and I quote, we can not only live as well as we wish, even without aid, but also build socialism splendidly and must certainly do so. End of quotation. Major Ernesto Che Guevara, the famous Cuban Argentinian revolutionary, visited People's Career in 1960, and he said it was the socialist country that he liked the most. He wrote, now I quote, of the socialist countries that we visited personally, Korea is one of the most extraordinary. Perhaps it is the one that impressed us most of all, end of quotation. In People's Korea, there is free housing. Yes, free housing. It's incredible. Free education and free healthcare. There is low-cost public transport, and it is free for the disabled and honoured war veterans. Citizens of the DPRK receive, free of charge or at very low cost, the following: 500 grams of tofu, 300 grams of rice, 2 eggs, 250 grams of vegetables, 250 grams of fruit, bread and other baked goods, and 2 litres of beer on a daily basis. People's Korea abolished taxation in March 1974. Many people in countries such as the UK wrongly associate taxation with socialism. How many times have you heard, and I quote, and I'm being the devil's advocate here, "You lefties just want to put taxes up," or "We can't vote Labour because they put up taxes." In the imperialist West in the past, the very limited, and they were very, very limited and inadequate programs of social reform were not funded through the radical redistribution of wealth, but through taxation, and taxation of the working people, the people who were meant to benefit from them. So in other words, the working people were paying for the services they were meant to benefit from. And when you think that you have to pay for medical prescriptions and pay tax and national insurance, you're actually basically paying twice. And it is a little known fact that the state in the UK, the government actually gets back more money in taxes and national insurance than it actually spends on benefits and welfare. Because People's Korea has a unique socialist system, it is able to fund a high level of social and public services without taxing its people. The revenues of state-owned industry are used to fund social and public services. The DPRK is based on 100% socialist ownership of the means of production, distribution and exchange. It completed the socialist transformation of production relations back in 1958. There are no private companies in People's Korea that I know of. People's Korea is probably the most egalitarian society in the world, certainly the most egalitarian country that I've ever visited. For example, we visited the Ryuwon footwear factory in 2019, and we're told that the wage differential was 2-1. Now, compare that to 10-1 in Cuba and 30-1 in the USSR pre the perestroika days. And of course, there's no comparison with capitalist countries where someone like Jeff Bezos, that's what he's called, or Musk, they're able to earn about $1 million per second or something. Wage differentials in People's Korea simply reflect different levels of skill, education and experience, and there are opportunities for workers to gain new skills and qualifications through distance learning on the job. And in fact, visiting the Kim Jong-suk textile mill, we saw a sci-tech learning space with computers where workers could actually study university courses, and this was incredible. It's sort of breaking down the barrier between intellectuals and workers. there isn't the rigid barrier you have in countries like the UK or US between workers and intellectuals. A worker can become an intellectual. When I visited the DPRK in 2008, my guides Han and Cho told me that there was no big house in the DPRK countryside, indeed no big private estates like the UK. When I have visited people's career, I've seen the red flag flying on street corners and agitprop teams of housewives waving and twirling red flags. People's Korea is one of the few countries in the world to uphold the red flag of socialism, the red flag of Juche. So we must defend People's Korea with no ifs or buts. Now, the best way to defend People's Korea with no ifs or buts is to join the Korean Friendship Association of the UK. And for those of you who wish to study the Juche idea, there is the British group for the study of the Juche idea. We are genuinely pro DPRK. 100%. We unconditionally defend People's Korea and its right to existence with no ifs or buts. We are not half-hearted or faint-hearted, nor two-faced liberals who support the DPRK, but really want to, quote-unquote, change the regime, which really means they want to undermine socialism in Juche in the DPRK and reduce the DPRK to a pale shadow of its former self. In fact, for the DPRK to be reduced into a colony or neo-colony of world imperialism, and for the capitalist system to be restored in the DPRK, which would mean massive unemployment, poverty, and homelessness, just like the former socialist countries. So we are fighting to defend People's Korea and its independence and its socialist system. So, please get involved. We really need to do more in KFA UK and up our game. We need to start holding more real life meetings and more street protests. We need to be getting people out of their bedrooms and living rooms and into meeting halls. And of course, we do have online meetings as well. The threats against People's Korea are very real. The imperialists continue to keep a large number of troops and strategic nuclear weapons in South Korea. In 2023, when it was Sleepy Joe Biden as president, the US and South Korea formed the so-called Nuclear Consultative Group with the aim of waging war against the DPRK. Very soon, in March, the US and South Korea will stage the 11-day-long Freedom Shield military exercise, which is a test run for a war against the DPRK, which will push military tension on the Korean Peninsula to the extreme phase. The US has also gathered its lackey nations together to form a multilateral sanctions monitoring team, MSMT, to replace the UN panel of experts on sanctions against the DPRK, which had become defunct owing to the veto of the Russian Federation. As Sergeant Major Williams would say, never mind, how sad. However, the US was not going to accept that, so they've set up, unilaterally set up the body outside of the UN, which consists of 11 countries: US, UK, South Korea, Australia, Canada, France, Germany, Italy, Japan, the Netherlands, and New Zealand, but this may be enlarged in future to include other countries. The creation of this mechanism is an unpardonable assault on the sovereignty and independence of the DPRK. The British government also dared to slap sanctions on the DPRK National Defence Minister, Comrade No Kwang Chol, and other DPRK officials. And, you know, this shows you that the Starmer government is no different to the previous Tory government. And, at the same time as Starmer is slapping sanctions on people's career, they are attacking the living standards of workers at home by increasing council tax, by increasing energy bills and water charges. And of course, prices in the shops are going up all the time. Lastly, I think I should say a word about crypto, the allegations about cryptocurrency. Recently, the US Federal Bureau of Investigation, FBI, should be called the Fascist Bureau of Investigation, accused, with zero evidence, the DPRK, or what they termed North Korean hackers, of stealing 1.5 billion in cryptocurrency. The FBI doesn't actually name any suspects, only different hacker groups, which are supposedly affiliated with the DPRK, although this is not explained how they are affiliated with the DPRK, as apparently these people do not actually live in the DPRK. The mainstream media have kicked up a hullabaloo, claiming that the DPRK is using stolen cryptocurrency to evade sanctions and to fund the military, quote unquote. This is nonsense. Even if the DPRK did acquire a big amount of cryptocurrency somehow, it would then have to convert the cryptocurrency into real money. And this would be impossible because of the sanctions against the DPRK and the fact that the DPRK has shut out the banking system. Anyway, many countries, such as the UK, cryptocurrencies is actually very difficult to convert into real money. The DPRK is building new homes, factories, and hospitals without cryptocurrency. In the military, in the DPRK, is funded through domestic resources. The secret weapon of people's career against sanctions is self-reliance. It is Juche, not cryptocurrency. The false accusation against the DPRK shows that the Trump administration, despite talk of dialogue and we want improved relations, has absolutely no serious intention of meaningful and fair dialogue with the DPRK. I will stop there. Thank you for listening, and take a few questions from you. Yeah, just scroll along in the chat. There's loads of questions and comments. So yes, good evening, Gregor. Yes. Yes, hello, friends from Turkey. I think Canada is getting a little bit of this kind of treatment from the USA. Juche-based, who is even eating McDonald's crap. It is extremely expensive, tastes like shit, and will make you extremely sick. Yes, very true. So glad that McDonald's does not exist in the DPRK. McDonald's is also pro-Zionist. Hopefully they don't return to Russia. Russia don't need any stupid Starbucks either. Yes, well, all eyes are on Russia. You're going to see uh, what's what happens with the negotiations with the US imperialists headed by Trump, who I think will try to drive a very hard bargain indeed. Ah, right. Now we've yeah got a question about DPRK suits custom made. Well, first of all, I think it would be absolutely impossible to get it sent to the US unless it's sent from a third country, because it would totally break the US sanctions. I'm not even. I don't. I don't think the US Post Office would accept mail from the DPRK. Uh, the one I'm wearing was actually made for me at the Corio Hotel in 2017. It was made to measure. It cost about, I think, 60 or 70 euros. Can't remember exactly, but it was made in the DPRK. There may be a way of uh, getting a suit made for you and sort of sent through a third party, but I think it would be complicated. Yeah, I mean, Russia is a capitalist country. This is a fact, and I've had to tell some people this many times. The Russian Federation is not the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics. It is a capitalist country, but it's a capitalist country which has contradictions with US imperialism. And over the last few years, it has taken an anti imperialist stance, and it has hit hard at US and EU imperialist interests. But uh, we are waiting to see what course Russia will take in future, whether it will maintain an anti-imperialist stance or whether it will capitulate to with imperialism. Yeah, that's correct. DHL have or I'm not sure whether they still have the office in Pyongyang actually. But I mean, there used to be a DHL office. Yes, Gregor, I agree about cryptocurrency. It's overrated. It's to me, it's something, something fairly useless. I mean, in the UK, it is worthless because you can't use it in the UK. Ah, right. Well, no, I don't think everybody in the DPRK drinks 2 liters of beer. In fact, children are now supplied with dairy products free of charge. That was a decision of the party central committee. And yeah, you can get lots of nice fruit juices in the DPRK, like apple juice, which is called cider in the DPRK, but it is actually non-alcoholic. You can also get carbonated pear drink, and other drinks made from fruit. I think like blueberry juice. Yeah, I mean, it's and yeah, the 2 litres is per household, but most women in the DPRK choose not to drink. Okay. There's a channel from the Woodrow Wilson Foundation. Never heard of them. But yeah, so I can imagine it wouldn't be much good at all. Uh, Well, I mean, I suppose we could uh, do a short statement about the channel, the other channel, Korean Friendship Association of the UK, being banned in South Korea. I mean, I think this channel, SONGUN007, is already banned in South Korea. I mean, we've been in the process of reactivating the channel, trying to get some content onto it. Uh, you know, but for anyone who does, because the old KFA UK standalone channel, uh, or got banned uh, by by YouTube, got deleted by YouTube. So we've got this. We started a new one a year ago. Uh, which we're trying to develop, as our friend from Turkey points out, it got banned in South Korea, that wonderful place where you supposedly there is freedom of expression. Of course, I use the word wonderful in sarcastically and ironically, because South Korea is a fascist shithole under the occupation of the US. Yeah, Korean tea, yes. Tea in the DPRK is drunk, and there was recently a seminar on tea in the DPRK. Would you believe? There is Unjong tea uh, in the DPRK, and there is tea culture. And there was, there was a recent item in KCNA about it, and I think somewhere, I mean, I think it might have been one of the videos on the channel that got deleted. Somewhere there was a video about tea in the DPRK. Let's just see if we've got it on the newer channel. No, we haven't. I'm sure there is a video somewhere about tea in the DPRK, but yeah, I mean, well, it's on someone else's channel about tea in the DPRK. Yeah, I mean, there's tea shops in the DPRK. I mean, they also have green tea, and of course, they have insam tea, ginseng tea, which is very healthy and uh, is a real tonic if you take it. Yes, freedom of expression for me, not for thee. Yes, very true. Right. Well, whilst I wait for a few more questions or comments to answer, and just speak a bit about forthcoming activities. Basically, we used to have Q&A sessions which were quite successful, and we ran for about just over a year. We're now replacing them with something different, partly because some of the questions were getting repeated, and also because these live streams also tend to duplicate Q&As. So what we're doing, I'll just see if I can find the book. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be having readings from this book in the Understanding Korea series. It's volume 9, and it's on human rights. And what we do is we will read from the book and then have discussions on it. And there's other books in the series. So if we get through that book in a couple of sessions, we can move on to another book. So that will be on the 15th of March. It will be online via Skype, and trusted people will be sent the link, and new people who we do not know, we will have to fill in the registration form, and I'll put a link. It's not actually on lulu.com. It's actually a publication from the DPRK. I've got it on my Google Drive, and it's also on the KFA main website. I'll just find the link. Yeah, I'll put the link, and yes, it's great, Gregor, that you've got all 10 of them as PDFs on your phone. And welcome to Comrade George from KFA Greece, and who's also KFA UK member as well. Welcome. So anyway, that, like you say, that is going to be on the 15th, and we're going to have another film night on March 31st, which we hope to show the film 72 hours. It's going to be quite ambitious showing that film. And then, of course, in April, we're going to have some meetings, hopefully a real live meeting. And then in May, it is planned for me to go to Scotland, where we're going to have meetings in Edinburgh and Glasgow, but I'm waiting for confirmation. And also, we should be at the Merseyside Marxist Book Fair in Liverpool on the 10th of May. So that's the activities for the coming months, and I'm actually at the moment I'm trying to work on a new book about the DPRK struggle against revisionism. It's going to be called Anti-Revisionist Fortress of Juche. Right. Can you tell us about people's career support for the Democratic Republic of the Congo? Oh, it's a very, very interesting question, quite a specialist question. The DPRK did support a lot of African liberation movements, uh, in including ZANU-PF and the ANC, and also Frelimo in Mozambique, and the MPLA in Angola. And it also established close relations with the Democratic Republic of the Congo when that was established in the 1990s, and it's developed cooperative relations with the Democratic Republic of Congo, including sending doctors to the Democratic Republic of Congo and other specialists to the DR Congo. And when I've been in the DPRK, I've encountered Juche idea followers from the Democratic Republic of the Congo, and there's many Juche idea study groups in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. And the Juche idea is studied by a lot of people in the Congo. Now, it's an interesting question because I believe back in the 60s, there was an attempt to form a this is confusing because there's also a People's Republic of the Congo, Congo Brazzaville, but also there was an attempt to form another People's Republic of Congo. And it is said that the DPRK and a number of socialist countries actually supported that and sent military assistance, but that's a bit of a grey area. You know, this is something I would have to read up on to give a more detailed answer about the DPRK's relations with the Democratic Republic of Congo, but they've always supported the struggle of the Congolese people for independence and development. I mean, if you care to email me, you know, I can do some extra research on this subject and get back to you. Did you see the argument between Zelensky and Trump Vance at the White House? Well, I must admit, I saw it flashing up online on Twitter and, you know, goodness knows what, and did sort of take a peek, you know, for about 50 seconds of it. And of course, this is what happens when you're a puppet of imperialism. You get told off by your boss, and Trump is trying to run the US imperialist global empire just like a business, just like a corporation, a very tight-fisted and mean corporation. Well, aren't they all? But you know, this would be a particularly tight-fisted one, and it basically Zelensky was like an incompetent local manager who hadn't met his sales targets, been called in for a telling off by HR and having his salary docked until he improved results. It was very much like that. I mean, Trump clearly isn't a leader who tolerates fools gladly, and he's a leader. He's a leader. You know, he's not from the political class of the US. He's actually a businessman, and he's someone who believes in not long-term or medium-term results, but he believes in short-term results. And clearly he sees Ukraine and probably all other puppet regimes like South Korea as a big liability, something that's actually costing the US a lot of money. And let's be frank and rational about this. People often forget that the US is actually bankrupt. It's got public debt running into trillions of dollars. And things like landing on the moon. Yeah, I mean, I believe the US did land on the moon. I know there's an argument that the moon landings were fake, but, let's not go there. Things like landing on the moon and the so-called victory in the Cold War were achieved by spending billions and billions and trillions. The victory in the Cold War was achieved by spending billions on propaganda and dirty tricks operations. And this left the US with huge debts. And I think it's got to a point. In fact, I think it reached a point a long time ago that it was unsustainable. They can't keep borrowing from banks. They can't keep printing money. So there's got to be, the line's got to be drawn, and this is what Trump is doing. He's not anti-imperialist. He's not getting rid of US imperialism. Let's not make mistakes or have illusions. But he is saying that, these imperial adventures of the US must pay their way, and there must be actual, real, immediate, tangible financial monetary gains from them. That's how Trump is different to previous US imperialist presidents. I've got no knowledge about whether there's refugees from Ukraine in the DPRK. Of course, if I'm sure the DPRK would accept them, because Ukraine is a fascist regime. No, I mean, I don't believe that the moon landing was fake. I believe it was real, but the cost to the US was enormous, and it was the US space program in the Vietnam War in the 60s and 70s that actually virtually bankrupted the US and caused the US to have to print dollars to cover the deficits caused by the space program, which led to runaway inflation throughout the capitalist world. Right, well, let's wait, see if there's a few more questions. I think you stay around for another 5 or 10 minutes. Right. Is there any So any program or other opportunity for high-skilled workers, IT engineering, to work in the DPRK. Are there any foreign workers there? Well, a long time ago, well, no, I think 2008, I saw a few Chinese engineers in the DPRK. And there have been from time to time foreign language teachers, English teachers in the DPRK. You know, some were sent by the British Council, but apart from that, the openings are very, very limited. It really would be teaching English, and I say there'd only be a few places. Yes, it is a complete lie that the DPRK have stolen 1 billion in cryptocurrency, and I've actually dealt with it in earlier in the live stream. It's an outrageous lie that the US have cooked up to try and frame the DPRK, to smear and tarnish the DPRK's reputation, and to impose more sanctions on the DPRK. Cryptocurrency wouldn't be much use to the DPRK because it would have to be converted into real money, and the DPRK is sanctioned. It's denied access to the international financial system, so it wouldn't be able to do that. You know, so why try to steal 1 billion in cryptocurrency? And there's absolutely no evidence, even if this has really happened, that a big sum of cryptocurrency has gone missing, that the people involved are from the DPRK. It's just nonsense. There's no evidence offered by the US. And the fact is, the DPRK has been under sanctions by the US for over 70 years, about over nearly 80 years, basically. And it survived, despite these sanctions, it survived through self-reliance, long before cryptocurrency was even thought of. It's just nonsense. The DPRK is building socialism wonderfully and magnificently, not by cryptocurrency, but through self-reliance and Juche. So I think it's an outrageous slander that the DPRK have stolen cryptocurrency. Yeah, you can access the internet at universities and hotels in the DPRK, and I've actually used Wi-Fi in the Corio Hotel and connected to WhatsApp and Telegram when I've been in the DPRK. And in fact, I was sending pictures to the KFA UK Telegram channel direct from the DPRK. Are there any private entrepreneurs? No, I never liked that word entrepreneur in the DPRK, small cafes, shops, etc. No, it's 100% social ownership in the DPRK. I mean, there are cooperatives, not just farms, but some other producer cooperatives that run small scale businesses, but they are cooperative rather than private. Has USAID ever given uh, help to the DPRK? As far as I know, never. Yeah, I mean, there are small kiosks in the DPRK where where you can buy drinks or snacks. Some of these are actually run by hotels and restaurants, and others are part of service networks or cooperatives. But as far as I know, there are not individual private businesses in the DPRK. Uh, Someone mentioned Lulu. I'll just put a link to my author spot on lulu.com. Yes, well, I hope that everyone will be able to go to the DPRK and send back pictures on on the internet using the Wi-Fi. Do you have any information about Laos? Laos. Well, this live stream is really about the DPRK and Juche, but still got a little bit of spare time. I will try and briefly answer your question. It is the title of the country is the Laos People's Democratic Republic. The DPRK closely supported the struggle of the Laotian people, and they've given assistance to the Laos. I think they actually built a museum in Vientiane, and yeah, it is a socialist country, or more accurately, a people's democratic system uh, in the country, and the ruling party is the Laos People's Revolutionary Party, and there are good relations between Laos and the DPRK. Yeah, I mean, people uh, in the DPRK, had mobile phones. Back in 2012, I witnessed that most people seem to have a mobile phone, and they can access the internal internet. They can access DPRK internal internet networks. Well, you know, we as KFA, we don't make recommendations about tour companies. All I would say is just check out the uh, prices. I mean, we hope to run our own trips to the DPRK through the British Group for the Study of the Juche idea and through KFA UK, and at which we would try to keep costs to the minimum, and there would be no middleman's profit like there would be through tour companies. You know, we you know we can get up a delegation of people to go to the DPRK if people are interested. So please contact us. But I would stress that for people to come on our delegation, we would expect people to actually actively contribute to the association and the study group by working hard. Uh, basically, because our costs would be a bit lower than a commercial tour. Okay. Are there any other questions? Just take another 5 minutes of questions, and then we will end the stream. And of course, it will be available for everyone to see on the replay. That is a complete lie about DPRK troops being uh, sent to Ukraine. It's been addressed in previous live streams. The DPRK simply does not send large numbers of troops to fight overseas. It has never done that in any point in its history. It's only ever sent a few hundred troops to fight in different countries. This is a line. It's just imperialist propaganda, and there've been lots of articles, including 2 written by myself, which disprove these lies. Yeah, it's a matter of fact, the Russian Federation does have a treaty with the DPRK, which uh, provides for either side to give military assistance to the other one in case of the military, in case of an invasion or military attack. But the Russian Federation have not invoked this treaty at all. It's the Russian side have not invoked it at all, and the only assistance the DPRK has given is treatment and for wounded Russian soldiers and rest and relaxation. And it's also not an imperialist war. It's a self-defensive action by the Russian Federation, also, that's been taken to secure the territorial integrity of the Russian Federation and to protect Russian-speaking minorities in Ukraine who were being repressed. And the pictures being shown are just fake. They've been debunked as being fake pictures. Well, they were never there in the first place. You know, this the stupid Ukrainians, you know, proved it was false because they said, "Oh, they're not there," you know, to cover the fact that you know, in fact, uh, you know, there weren't DPRK troops there, which was the reason why they couldn't produce a large number of captured troops or any tangible evidence that they were DPRK troops there. And as I said before, we've got to remember there are ethnic Korean citizens who live in Russia and are in the Russian armed forces, and there's also different Asian minorities in the Russian Federation who some very ignorant Western imperialists would probably uh, think they are Koreans and from the DPRK, but you know, it's not. You know, uh, you know, they're not actual DPRK troops. And, you know, in my opinion, if there had been really DPRK troops in Ukraine, I think Zelensky wouldn't be on the carpet in the White House now. He would be hanging upside down from a flagpole in Ukraine. Well, I'm not going to get into a long discussion on this. I think the person, the anonymous person who's put username, I think needs to actually read what imperialism really is. You know, and in fact, the actual Ukraine is actually a very small country, and they actually did very well out of the Soviet Union. They were given a lot of territory by the Soviet Union, uh, which you know now has ethnic Russians on it, and they also got territory from Poland. And yeah, I mean, Ukraine, yes, it is really a fake state, you know, a bit like South Korea. Okay, well, it's nearly 8:15, so I thank everybody for their participation. And you know, I'll be back in about 2 or 3 weeks with another live stream. So thank you for your attention tonight. Thank you. Goodbye.